So some of our accomplishments that we have, the BRS takes a lead role in a lot of different arenas that most people aren't thinking about. We're involved in the National Mediation Board. Again, Brandon's our representative. He's the National Rail Adjustment Board Vice President, but he's our rep on the National Mediation Board. We're also involved in the National Labor Relations Board because we have properties that aren't covered under the Railway Labor Act. We have the Denver Transit operators who are technically contractors. We actually have a contractors group, and we have a signal wire shop that's in Kentucky called Signalmen that aren't covered under the Railway Labor Act. We're involved in the Rail Safety Advisory Committee, which is a regulatory venue where the industry, which is the railroads, and the regulatory authority, which is the FRA, and labor gets together, and we try and work through any proposed regulation that comes out. And again, we're involved there to either say why that regulation is a good idea or why repealing one, which is the current state of the FRA right now, why that's a bad idea. We're involved in the fatality analysis of maintenance away employees in Signal. Okay, that's a group where pretty much the same, not the same people, but the same agencies are involved that are in the RSAC. But instead of going in there, we everybody checks their hats at the door and we investigate every fatality that happens to a maintenance away employee or a Signal employee that's been struck and killed on the tracks. It's very, very important work that we're all involved in, and the BRS, your union, has been a founding member of that group. If you haven't read some of the reports that come out, it's called the FAMES Committee. You definitely need to. We're also involved in the Rail Workers Hazardous Materials Training Program. Who knew they had one? There's a particular program that comes in. It's a 6-day course where where day one, they teach you about the materials, the hazardous materials that you're working around. And you'll learn more in that one day about hazardous materials than most people learn in their career about where they work at. They spend the next 5 days teaching you how to teach it back to your employees, how to have a little module at a safety meeting, how to do tailgate training on a truck, whatever it is, we do that, and we sit on their national advisory board for that. We're also involved with the American Passenger Train Association, which is kind of like the union for the commuter railroads, except we send our political director to attend all the meetings because a lot of times the commuter agencies are pushing for funding that keeps our people working. So we show up because a lot of times we're on the same page that they are because we want to get funding to keep our people working too. Pretty much everybody that works at Grand Lodge are third-party investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board. Okay, what that means is that if there's a rail accident that the National Transportation Board launches on, okay, and they think it might have something to do with the signal system, they call Grand Lodge and we send a representative up to assist in the investigation. Now we're not going in there and running the investigation and telling them what they need to test and things like that. However, we're an active part of it and we help them do their tests. But what we're really there for is to make sure that that investigation is on the up and up, to make sure that a supervisor doesn't go and try and cover something up and tell its employees, if you guys say what really happened, I'm going to fire all of you. We're there to make sure that doesn't happen, and it's very important. Again, we're involved with the AFL-CIO. They have a Transportation Trades Department, which solely focuses on legislative and regulatory issues that affect the transportation side. We regularly attend meetings for that. We're involved with Operation Lifesaver. We're actually on their National Advisory Council. We're the only labor members that are on the National Advisory Council, and I think it's important for us to be there because if somebody gets hit at a road crossing, 9 times out of 10, they say that it's our system that failed, so why wouldn't we be involved in that? So we're actually on the National Advisory Council for Operation Lifesaver, on the Railroad Retirement Board, going back decades and decades, the labor member and the Railroad Retirement Board to make sure that our funds are there for when we retire has been a Signalman. Currently, it's John Bragg, who used to be the National Rail Adjustment Board Vice President here. Before him, it was Walt Barrows, who was the National Secretary Treasurer at Grand Lodge here. Before him, it was Butch Speakman, who was former BRS President. Before him, it was Chuck Chamberlain, who was also a former BRS President. And before him, I don't even think I was born yet. But regardless, it's been a Signalman watching the money at the Railroad Retirement Board for decades. We're also involved in the Federal Employers Liability Act, FELA. We're not covered under workman's comp. We're covered under a much better law that the labor organizations got together and pushed to have to make sure that we get a fair shake if somebody gets hurt on the railroad. We're involved in that.